This conference will now be recorded.
Please, thanks for joining. We'll get started. So yesterday we were looking into the overview of all the topics that we'll be covering it over the next 3 to 4 weeks. I was going through each and every topic and was explaining what we'll be covering it. Right. Today, what we'll do is today being one more day for demo and for people to understand um, the topics, right? I'll try to just pick one topic from this and go over that for next 30-40 minutes, just for the everyone to understand the style of the teaching and what they will be able to learn, right? So I'll go over the just one topic today. I'll pick one topic from this and then go over that. And from tomorrow, we will start from the with the schedule with the Java basics, JVM basics. We'll go as per the schedule. Today alone, I'll just go and pick one of the topic called Java threads and go over that today. And from tomorrow, we'll get started with the day one topic. Okay, before I go on to the topic, you guys have any questions on the topics or what will be covered, what will not be covered, any clarification required, or on the setup that you need in your laptop? Anything that is you need to know, please you can put it in the chat or ask the question. Okay, no issues. We'll get started. Okay, so I was telling you yesterday about the couple of things, right? For any uh, program or any application to run, it needs memory, it needs CPU, right? It has to store some interim data, um, computational data, which means it is going to occupy your memory. And to process your application, to process your the code, it needs a CPU, right? Like when you open a laptop and when you open any softwares, being Outlook or Skype or Excel, Word, every application will require a CPU and memory, right? So similarly, when you're going to deploy an application in your server, when your application is going to get started, it will require the CPU for its own execution. And unlike your Word or Excel, right, where you are the only user, but when it comes to your application, which is going to deployed in the server, it is going to be accessed by many concurrent users. So which means your application should be able to serve more users parallelly or concurrently. That is where the concept of thread comes into picture. There are going to be multiple threads which is going to handle this multiple request in parallel. Okay, you can just assume that thread is nothing but a handler which will accept request, and then it will execute that particular piece of code for login or for registration, whatever request that is coming in, it will be executed and then response will come back to the user. So depending upon number of users it is going to support concurrently, you would need as much as threads, right? If you don't have as much of thread, then what will happen? Your users has to wait for the one of the thread to finish his first job or the earlier job. So that is where for any applications, as part of the initial benchmarking, one of the role of the performance engineer is to identify your thread configuration per JVM, per server, right? One JVM, how many threads you need to be configured so that it can support 200 users or 300 users or 400 users, right? So those benchmarking exercise, how do we go and do this and all, we'll be looking into it in detail later. But from a concept perspective, you need multiple threads for processing to handle concurrent request, and this thread will be configured at the your web server level, at the Tomcat level. Yesterday I was showing you that in the Tomcat server. I'll go back to that. In the Tomcat, if you go and look into the configuration file in the server.xml, okay, in the server.xml, if you see here, you will provide the minimum threads and maximum threads, and I'm highlighting it here. Okay, so minimum thread is nothing but when your server starts, it will create those 3 threads. Okay, which means concurrently it can handle 3 requests. And if there are more load coming into the system, based on this need, based on the traffic, your Tomcat server can spin 2 more threads. So minimum is 3, maximum is 5. This is an example, right? Ideally, in the real-time applications, your minimum thread is going to be at least 150 to 200 or 250 or 300. Okay, so the min and max is something we configure it based on the traffic that is expected, based on the benchmarking that we will do it in your project. Okay, so the configuration will happen in the server.xml for the min and max. Okay, fine. So I wanted to probably tell you about a couple of things from a thread, the various states of the thread. Okay, before going to the various states of the thread, I'll try to give some simple example through which you will be able to understand this concept of threading. Okay, the example is not a apple to apple comparison, just an illustration so that you will not forget this concept. Okay, so we all know the your apps like Swiggy or Zomato, right? They are the your food servicing app, right? You order food and then they deliver it. Um, and there are going to be multiple um, uh, people who are going to be waiting in the somewhere in the area, right? Somewhere near the restaurant or somewhere near to your home, they'll all be waiting to pick up the orders. So when somebody is going to take his mobile and then going to order the food, okay, the request is going to be assigned to one of the your Swiggy person. There might be 5 or 10. Whoever is free, he is going to get assigned. Okay, so which means there are going to be multiple delivery persons waiting somewhere in the nearby area. Okay, and once a request comes, whoever is free, they're going to get assigned to that work, and then you will pick up that food from the restaurant, and then you will deliver it to your respective address. Similarly, depending upon number of food request, food order, it will get assigned to these many people who are waiting in the waiting for the orders. If there are going to be more orders, then what will happen is your food delivery will get delayed, right? Because there are only 5 people employed, and if there are more than 7, 8 requests coming at the time, then obviously your food delivery is going to get delayed. Okay. So what happens is normally the Swiggy or Zomato, they will employ more people in the busy hours, and then in the non-busy hours there will be only 2 or 3. They know the the fluctuation of demand. Accordingly, they will employ more people in the evening, maybe less people in the afternoon. Okay, so the cycle of you ordering a food, it goes to the delivery person. He picks up the food from your restaurant and he delivers it. And depending upon the your traffic, there are going to be many people in the evening, some less delivery person in the afternoon. When you compare this flow, this chain to your server, right? Uh, there are going to be threads in the middle, and somebody is going to access, say, Amazon.com. People are going to access Amazon.com from their mobile or from their laptop, and they go to do a login or search. They will be doing a lot of transactions, right? Whenever they do a transaction, it will come to the server, and the threads that are available free will pick up that request. If all the threads are busy, then the request will be waiting. Okay, and then once the server completes a request, it will take the response and then deliver it to your browser. Okay, so if you compare this to the thread and Swiggy, it's pretty similar. Your Swiggy person is similar to the thread here. There are going to be minimum and maximum depending upon the traffic. The additional thread will be spinned off, or during the non-traffic during the off hours, you will have only less thread actively working in the server. Okay, so the request comes from your Amazon.com browser, from various people across the world. The thread, 100 threads or 150 threads that are waiting, will pick up this request, and then once your server completes the processing, it will provide the response back to the your browser. Okay. So that there are a couple of concepts here. So there are stages where you're going to the threads are going to be actively doing something. It might be waiting for the server to complete the processing, or it might be completely, all the threads might be completely busy as well. Okay, so yeah, this illustration is just for you to understand how the threads are going to operate between your processing the your transaction and giving a response back to the your browser or client. Okay, so we have seen this. I've been telling about the threads waiting or thread in the busy state, right? In reality, uh, a thread can go into these various states. Okay, a thread state is nothing but at any point of time, what it is doing. It can be running, it can be waiting, it can be just got created. So the original starting point is new. A thread, when thread is getting created, the new thread is getting created. Runnable is a thread is now ready to take up the request. Okay, it is created. It is now ready to take any task. Running is when the thread is assigned with the work, it is going to actively doing some processing. It is in a running state. Terminated is when we have min and maximum, right? When there's less traffic, the additional threads like 4 and 5 will get terminated. Okay, so thread can go into a termination mode as well. In between, it can go into a waiting state also. If thread is waiting for some condition, if a thread is getting blocked by another thread, right? Or if the thread is waiting for some of the downstream services to respond. Okay, all these can be termed as waiting. Or in the code, if they have a thread dot sleep, okay, the waiting can be sleeping. Waiting can be blocked by other threads. They blocked by other thread, right? That is a serious problem. When a thread is getting blocked by other thread for prolonged time, that is where these deadlocks your response time problem, all things will come into picture. We will look into the detail when we going to talk about the thread dump analysis and all these things. Okay, from the thread state perspective, waiting is something we cannot avoid, but why it is waiting, how long it is waiting is going to be important, which is going to directly impact your response time. So obviously your waiting time should be very, very less. If it is going to be waiting for more time, then that is why we will go and do the thread dump analysis and then see why the threads are in the waiting state, why they are in the blocked state, which thread is blocking it, why it is blocking it. That is what it is all about, the thread dump analysis. We will look into the thread dump analysis in detail when we go into the actual session. Okay, so what I will do is for you to understand these thread states a little bit more visually, right? I have started the Tomcat like whatever the way I did yesterday. The e-library app is running in the Tomcat. Okay, and if I go back to the my e-library application, okay, this is the e-library application. Okay, so what I will do is I have something called Visual VM. Visual VM tool is something you can also use it for your monitoring. For our thread purpose, I'm just going to use it to look into the various thread state. Okay, I'll just go and sort this. So I'll just do it from the first. Once you open the Visual VM, just you need to go to the Visual VM folder. Okay, so this Visual VM is again I have uploaded this to the shared drive, which you can download it. Okay, so you go to the Visual VM and then go to the bin and open the Visual VM tool. See, there are tools like Visual VM, tools like JProfiler or JConsole. All these things are all used for either profiling or monitoring your Java application. Okay, so I'm opening the Visual VM because this Visual VM, I'm going to just use it for my looking into the thread states. Okay, so I'll open this. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll just kill this and then start the Tomcat one more time from the beginning. Okay, I'll close it. I am into Tomcat folder. I'm going to go to bin and then start it. Let it start. Okay, it has started. So now I'll go to the Visual VM and then I'll just close it one more time. It should show us a Tomcat. Let me close this one more time. Okay, so I'll go to this thread. Okay, I'll close this. Now there are a lot of threads that are running, right? And under the name, you see a lot of threads are running. Okay, so I'll just sorting it, and the application threads that we configure in the Tomcat, right? That will start with HTTP NIO A082 executor. Okay, executor is the application threads. And as you remember, in our configuration, we have given minimum as 3 and max as 5. Okay, which means initially when JVM is started, it is just going to give the 3 threads: 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now if you see 1, 2, 3 all in the orange color, and in the bottom if you see, there are colors called green: running, sleeping, wait, park, and monitor. So orange is nothing but it is in a parking state. So parking is one of the uh, you can call it as a parking, or you can also call it as a runnable. So the threads are created. It is waiting for the task to be assigned. It is in a parking state. You can think that your Swiggy delivery person is just waiting in a parking lot. Nobody has sent a request. It is just waiting for a request. All 3 threads are in a idle state or parking state. Now let me go and do a login. Just one login. Now if you see, one of the thread will go into the active. Now executed 2 is in green, gray, green, and then park again. Because the login is completed, the task is completed by the thread. It has now went to parking. Green is running. In between, it went to some sleep state, which is nothing but your waiting, right? So it was in parking, runnable. Then it went to running, green. Then it went to sleeping, waiting, and then again it went to parking. Again, everything is now in a orange state. Okay. Now, if I let me do 2 logins concurrently. I'll duplicate this. Okay, log out. Okay, so let me do a login, and then let me do a login. Okay, now if you see executor 1, one second, let it complete this. Let this gray go out. I think I was a little slow in toggling these screens. Let this gray finish it, and then I'll go and do that login one more time. Okay. Okay. Now if you see first thread executor 1, I don't know why it is not giving the proper thread state. It is just showing the gray color. Let me do it one more time. This. Yeah, maybe either it is too fast, the running is too fast. It is not even showing that. It might be in a very microseconds your login is working. That is why it couldn't able to even show that green color. What we will do is I'll just go and start a Jmeter script. Okay, the Jmeter will have a login and few other transactions. Okay, let me go and start do this. Or meanwhile, what I'll do is I'll go and do a another transactions. Okay, maybe view librarian. Okay, and a view librarian. 2 more transactions parallelly. Now, if you see, at least one is now in green color, and then third is also in the green color, right? So first thread and third thread is doing some activity. Orange, green, orange, and execute the reason again in orange, right? So which means if I'm going to do things concurrently, your threads are going to whatever available threads are going to take the task and do it. But still, if you see, only 2 threads are busy. Other thread is still in parking state only. Now, if I'm going to go and run this Jmeter script is nothing but it is having the home page, it is having the login, it is having the view librarian. Okay, and I'm just going to run this for how many users? Maybe 5 users. Okay, and see, will monitor the thread state. Now, slowly you'll see each thread will take up the task and then will go between, toggle between these different states. Oh, I didn't, oh, it started. One second. There is some problem with the Jmeter. Let me check it out. One second. Okay. Okay. One second. Some data config file. I'll just disable it. I'll stop this. Yeah. Now I think it should work. Yeah. Executor one is now in green. Executor 2 is in green. 3 is in green. If you see, there are 2 more threads that are created now. 4 and 5. Okay, so the earlier there's only 3 threads. Now executor 4, executor 5 has come because we have started 5 concurrent users. All 3 users are sending a request. Tomcat couldn't able to handle the load. It has increased the number of threads from 3 to 5. Okay, so this will keep continuing for, I don't know whether I kept it for 1 iteration or two iteration. I kept it for 2400 milliseconds. No, I should have kept it infinite. Okay, let me start it again. Okay, let it run now. So the concept here is initially it was having only 3 threads. Since there are no more traffic, more demand, the Tomcat has automatically increased the number of threads from 3 to 5. And if you see that, you will see that all these threads will be now in a busy state. Either it will be green or gray. It will keep moving between these states continuously. Okay, and once I go and stop the test, right? Say, let me go and stop the test. After some time, after a minute or two, what will happen is the threads. If you see here, right, there's one more thing also called light blue. Okay, if you closely watch executor 2, 4, 5 are in the monitor state. Monitor state is something called blocked state. I was telling you this waiting, right? Waiting can be sleeping or can be blocked state. Whatever you saw, light blue is a blocked state. Ideally, blocked state is not good. If it is blocked, then it is going to impact your response time. It is going to impact your CPU. So overall performance will get impacted. Why it isn't blocked state? Which one is blocking? That is why. That is why we go and take this something called thread dump. Okay, when you take a thread dump, you will be able to know what state the threads are, and if it is in a blocked state, which thread it is blocking, why it is blocking, which code is blocking. All this information will be available in the thread dump. Okay, so we will learn about thread dump, how to take it, where to take it, how to analyze it, and all a little later. But this thread state, for you to understand the thread state and also to understand how the threads will get created and terminated, I was trying to show it visually. Okay, so if you see now, there is only 3 threads now working. The other 2 threads got terminated since there is no demand, there's no traffic. Automatically, the Tomcat has removed those additional 2 threads. Since we have a minimum of 3, it will retain only 3, and it can go up to maximum only 5. It cannot go beyond 5. Even if you're going to go and run this Jmeter test for 10 or 20 or 30, your Tomcat will give only 5 threads. Okay, because that is what you have configured it. Okay, Fine. So I'll take a pass, guys. If you have any questions on this, feel free to put it in the chat or you can ask. Yeah, anybody has any questions on the thread state? What is thread? How do we configure it? Anything on this topic, or if you have any generic questions about the overall sessions that are going to come up, please feel free to put it in the chat or you can unmute and ask the question.
It is like more or less like a virtual user, Satish.
See, in the Jmeter, whatever you give it, right? 5 users, 10 users, that is a virtual users.
Okay.
LoadRunner, in not only in LoadRunner, any virtual user is a load test, it's a performance testing terminology. In the real time, right, in production, your actual users are going to open up these in the browser and do it. In load testing tool, we are going to virtually simulate this user. That is what we call it as a virtual user. So in Jmeter, whatever I give 5 or 20, right, that is a 20 concurrent users, 20 virtual users. And to handle this request, these concurrent requests in Tomcat or JBoss, any web service, we need to specify how many threads you need to handle this. You cannot just go and give 1,000 or 2,000 because your number of threads are going to directly impact your CPU as well. So you cannot just go and say, hey, just give me 500 threads because I don't know the load. Give 500 threads. Every thread is going to occupy CPU, and your server is going to have a fixed number of CPU, right? It cannot have infinite. It will have a dual core, 4 core or 8 core, and more threads, more CPU. So our benchmarking exercise is going to be how many in a single JVM or single server with dual core you can add, how much users you can handle with this number of threads, so that response time can be within 5 seconds. That is going to be our benchmarking exercise, which we will discuss it later. Yet to answer your question, virtual user is something you will configure in the load testing tool, Jmeter or Gatling or LoadRunner or Airport. This thread is nothing but how many threads you need at the server side to handle these concurrent virtual user load.
Okay. Thank you,
Satish, what are the other lines on the Visual VM? Like I understood that there are 5 for the threads, but what are the other lines we see in
All
the?
things are going to be your other threads. Okay, yeah, there are daemon threads for logging purpose, for your garbage collections. There are a lot of other threads that will be part of your Tomcat. Okay, some as few things for garbage collection, few things for your sending out the JMX monitoring, few things are going to be for your uh, what is that, logging. So all other things are apart from your application specific thread, there are going to be other threads that are going to get created when a JVM starts, and it will die when JVM gets terminated.
Okay, thank you.
So all Tomcat related threads. And one example is your garbage collection. Garbage collection itself is a program which will run as in a separate thread to do the garbage collection. So yeah. But they are going to be static. All these threads are going to be static throughout the JVM's lifecycle. Only this executor 1, 2, and 5, which we tell Tomcat to spin up this thread to handle the request. That is what we will monitor. That is what we will look into the thread states. If it is in a blocked state, we will go and take a thread dump. And as for the benchmarking exercise, this is what we go and identify what is the max value, what is the min value. So all these things are part of our performance engineering related configuration.
I got one more question. Is JVisual VM available on every Tomcat?
No, see, JVisual VM is for Java monitoring. Okay. Um, you can see, in fact, if I go to the application, right, it won't do it will not even show Tomcat. It will show my Jmeter also. Jmeter being a Java application, you can also monitor Jmeter itself. I'm just an example. If you open Eclipse, it will show the Eclipse here. So JVisual VM is a tool that comes along with your Java SDK. It can go and monitor any Java application that is running in your machine. If I go and open the say Eclipse, let me go and open the Eclipse. Uh, let me search for that later. Yeah, so to answer your question, it is not for Tomcat. It is to monitor any Java application. And of course, your whatever application we have deployed in Tomcat is a Java application. We could able to monitor that as well.
Okay. So we do not need to configure it manually. So whatever the Java program is being executed, it will be displayed here, right? As soon as we open
It
this
will be
visual
displayed
VM.
here.
Okay.
Yes, it will be displayed here. But you don't worry for see when it comes to monitoring, right? Um, I'll tell you which tool we will be using it mostly.
Okay.
For this concept of thread state, see, we will not monitor the thread state during the load testing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I will tell you why. Because it is not, you will have 100 threads. We cannot keep looking into this monitor and see, okay, one is going to running, one is going to wait, one is parking. It is no way we'll be able to understand anything. For understanding this concept visually, I've shown this view. For the actual monitoring, I'll tell you which tool we will be using it, what metrics will be monitoring it.
Okay. Thanks. So multiple threads are running now, right? So how to identify actually this particular
Mhm.
Tomcat? So this process ID you have mentioned, right? So PID 20452. So here in this particular dashboard, so multiple threads are running. So how to identify like actually when we are running that Jmeter script, so only this HTTP 801 execute 1235. So you showed us directly. So in case if the multiple applications are running in the same server, if a specific application is giving some CPU high CPU consumption, so how to identify, is there any specific mechanism or
Okay, see, um, um, a application will have one thread. Okay,
okay.
so assuming that I'm having a laptop, this is my
Mm,
VM. Okay,
mm, mm,
in
mm,
my
mm.
VM, I have this Tomcat running in which I have hosted my application. So this is one application running in one Tomcat, which will have a PID, process ID. Okay,
Yes.
and I also have Jmeter. This is another application running in another Tomcat. Assume that I have two applications running in my mission. One is Tomcat, our e-library application. Second is the Jmeter. Okay, and both will have a process ID. Okay,
Mm, mm, mm.
so when I go to my visual VM, I will have Jmeter is having 25860, Tomcat is having 20452, and I'm
Yes.
going to monitor only Tomcat. Then I click this Tomcat, and
Yes.
whatever it is inside that belongs to only the Tomcat, not Jmeter. If I
Mm,
go
mm,
to the
mm.
Jmeter, okay, if I go to Jmeter, and there whatever that is running in Jmeter, it will show.
Mm,
Okay,
mm.
so you
Okay.
no need to worry about whether these threads belong to Tomcat or Jmeter or some other server, because you have opened the particular bit directly, and that is what you
Mm,
are
mm.
monitoring it.
Okay. So when we take the thread actually all this will be coming in the same notepad file.
Correct. See, thread dump is at this moment during a load test, right? You cannot visually look into this. It is going to be very, very. Also, this will not have a data of why it is blocked, which code is blocking. That information this will not have. So during a load test, if my response time is high, if all my threads are busy, then I can suspect that there's something going wrong with my threads. Then I'll go and take a thread dump, and in the thread dump, I'll go and check for the if there are any blocked state. I'll go and search for blocked state. If there are any blocked state, if it is a blocked state, then there is something I can go in detail to see which code is blocking. That kind of information, it will be there in the thread dump. Okay, that again, that topic is reserved for later. We will go in detail about that anyway. Yeah, since you have asked the question, the thread dump is something we'll be taking it. Not even see, you can take this thread dump from Visual VM, or there are commands to do it to take it from the command line also. So all these things will go over it during the actual session.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Sachin, to answer the question, right? What is thread dump? With thread dump, what can we verify? Thread dump is nothing but to know the current state of all the threads. Thread dump will have these all the states. So we have seen that thread state, right? Saying it is waiting or running or parking, blocked. During a load test, if you want to know if the response time is very high, if your threads are busy, if you want to know which threads are in blocked state, which are in running state, at this moment, I'll go and take a thread dump. I'll go and take a thread dump continuously for every 1 second, 2 seconds. So I'll have 5 thread dumps. With this thread dump, I can go and check in the first thread dump whether any thread is blocked. In second thread dump, whether the blocked thread state is still been blocked or not, or it went to running. So thread dump will help us to understand whether there is a blocked state. If it is a blocked state, how long it is in blocked state, and then which code is blocking it. In login, a particular method is blocking. Then I can go to developer and say, see, this method is blocking your thread for more time. Just go and see why it is blocking, fix the problem. So thread dump is there for you to understand the states of thread, so that you can verify how many threads are in blocked state, why it is in blocked state, the root cause we will get it, that will pass it on to the developer. Okay, fine guys. So we'll take a pass here. We'll start from the session 1 tomorrow. Yeah, there won't be any more demo sessions. So we'll be starting it from the day 1 tomorrow, and then we'll go with the flow. Whoever has got registered already, provide your email ID in the WhatsApp group. I'll share you the drive and Google Sheet, okay, so that you can download the required software and set it up in your laptop over the weekend, so that you can practice along with the sessions in the evening or in the week. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much, and we'll continue this tomorrow. We'll meet you again tomorrow.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.